Blinding Innocence, Episode 10, Season Finale. The red carpet was laid out. Flashes from cameras pulsed outside like strobe lights. "I cannot believe he went to all this length," Julia said to Annika and Cynthia. "You know the boutique spent nothing on the extras. It was even Jefferson's idea to charge admission." The three of them held champagne that looked like gold glitter in fluted glasses. Cynthia threw back the rest of hers, while Annika was looking around as if she was looking for someone. The night after she presented her Stiffenex campaign to the company, which loved it, she and Julia caught up on all the details of their lives while Julia was in the hospital. "I'm sorry to bring this to you," Annika had said, "but you're family to me. You know that. And that house, it was all he left me. And I'm working and successful and can afford an apartment here if I wanted, but right before Pupe died," she trailed off. "I know I was frustrated when you two were first together, but what I don't understand is how much of a secret he kept my mother's things. I don't even have them in my possession yet. I should have received it all so long ago," Julia said. They spoke both of the empty house, how Julia's mother items were still stashed away somewhere inside it, and then they spoke candidly about the mugging. "I was shocked," Annika said. "I'm just so glad you woke up. The doctors were sure you weren't going to be stuck in a vegetated state, but it was just a matter of time," she said. "I mean, who would want to hurt you?" Julia and Annika looked at each other, unable to speak about what was truly on their mind. As the opening of Jefferson's latest exhibit continued to draw a crowd, rich people all dressed in blacks and whites, they crowded inside the small space. Jonathan pushed through the crowd and found Annika and Julia together. "It looks like old times," he said. "The two of you won't be able to be separated, will you?" "I never thought my stepmother and I would get along so well," Julia exclaimed. The three of them laughed. Cynthia came trotting back with 2 flutes of champagne and handed one to Jonathan. "How many is that?" asked Annika. "I'd like to be somewhat inebriated when you shock me with your taser," Cynthia said in disgust. "Uncalled for," Annika said. "Bad week. Give me some credit. I don't know how you could be on Jefferson's side anyway. He's so wishy-washy. He comes and goes. He's nice then filthy. I don't know if I can trust his moodiness." "But a taser?" Cynthia asked. "Oh, he got me back. When I slipped in the apartment and went unconscious for a few minutes, he woke me up with the damn thing," Annika said. "He never said anything about that," Cynthia said. "Not that you're less of a loon for it, but, well..." She didn't finish her thought and swallowed a mouthful of her champagne. A tall man with gray speckling his hair approached the small group. "Can you believe the turnout? Due to the fire code, we had to turn people away," he said. "Julia, I must thank you. I don't know what wonders you worked or who you contacted, but look at this." "Jefferson, anything for your art. But it was your idea for admission," Julia said. "I hope that someone is interested enough to buy your little show." "Julia, don't worry. It is only a one-night engagement," he said. "That you didn't tell me," Julia said. "I'm going to go and shut the doors, and Jefferson, you can begin your presentation, speech, or whatever you want to do to open up." Julia walked away. Jefferson walked up to the front of the boutique, leaving Cynthia and Jonathan and Annika alone together. Jonathan thought he smelled a fart. He looked at Cynthia, but Cynthia looked at Annika. "What?" Annika said. "If I could have everyone's attention, please," Jefferson said, speaking through the microphone. "As an artist that works with mixed media, I have decided to challenge myself to create the most realistic piece of art ever." Black drapes hung around the 12 flat-screen TVs and were pulled away, showing nothing but blue screens. Julia walked back up to Jonathan, Annika, and Cynthia. She stopped. "Did someone fart?" The three of them remained silent. "The champagne isn't that cheap," Julia said. "God, Cynthia." "What? We've been around you when you drink. You don't fool us," Julia said. Jonathan looked up to see who else was at the boutique and saw Michael standing by the entrance. "Michael came," he said. "Go stand next to him if you're going to smell," Julia said. "I refuse to stand anywhere near Michael," Cynthia said. The lights went out and lasers shot onto the ceiling, showing off a nice design. As the show began, Annika looked toward the door and thought she saw someone sneak into the show. The shadow looked familiar. She tapped Julia, but Julia was too transfixed by the laser show. The lasers provided enough light, and Annika thought she saw the person's face. "Now the real art begins," Jefferson said. And music started, heavy in the chest with its bass, and the TVs turned on. On each screen was a person doing normal everyday things, from sitting on the couch with a gun to showering. Cynthia looked up. All the faces were blurred out, but she knew the color of her own shower tile. "What the hell?" "What is it?" Jonathan said. "That's me. Look at all the TV," she said. Annika, Julia, and Jonathan started looking around, and although the faces were all blurred out, each of them recognized each of the scenes happening. "This is the art of everyday life," Jefferson concluded. Applause filled the air. "The bastard," Cynthia said. "He's been videotaping us." The other three agreed. The art on the TV was each of them. Cynthia showering, Annika holding a gun, Jonathan sleeping in Julia's bed, Julia sleeping in the hospital. Annika wanted to be shocked, but she was too curious to get a better glimpse of the figure that stood at the front of the store. She pushed the crowd and called after the figure. "Pupe? Pupe, is that you?" To be continued. Blinding Innocence, Episode 9. Julia looked at the phone after her conversation with Annika. Jonathan had briefed her that Annika had been acting strange, but the reason behind it was eerie. She looked at her glowing laptop and tried to send out another email to a newspaper about Jefferson's upcoming exhibit, but the phone rang. "Hello? Julia, I'm so glad you're back. I was worried sick." It was Jefferson. "Well, fear not. I am currently working on PR for your next exhibit." "Fabulous! You'll be thrilled when it is ready. Even though I've done mixed media in the past, I think this new exhibit will blow people's minds away. The only problem is, it's solely one piece, and if someone wanted to buy it, well, there's a lot of equipment to go along with it," and Jefferson trailed off. "What are you getting at?" Julia asked. "Well, even though the boutique shows sellable art, this one isn't exactly one that can be sold." "And why is that?" Julia asked, annoyed. "Well, it'll have about 12 television sets hanging around the room, a sound system, and a whole lot of other technological pieces," he said. "Jefferson, the boutique is not your personal museum. We have other shows and works lined up. How long will it take to get everything together?" "Well, I've talked with boutique, and the television sets will be there today. I will be over there setting it all up so it can have a grand opening by the end of the week." "Isn't that pushing it? You're not going to get any good press," Julia said. "My name's been over the town. How can I not get good press? People know who I am, Julia. They'll take notice. Only when they read an article about it," she said. "So they'll find out about it a few days after the opening. I'll make sure people who need to know get to know. This is the only time I'll do this for you, Jefferson. You may have brought in a lot of people to the boutique, but your art isn't the only art that sells. I refuse to set some kind of new standard. If you want to be shown off as an artist, the next exhibit will happen when you're dead." "Was that a threat?" Jefferson asked. "Oh, please," Julia said. "I work in public relations. I play hardball. All I'm saying is that we are not a museum, unless someone will actually buy all of this and put it in their house." "It's quite possible," he said. "Well, as long as there's some value in it. But if you want people to know about your opening, I need to go and let people know," she said. They said their goodbyes, and she shot out a few more emails to newspapers and art websites to post the showing. She closed her laptop and decided that was enough for the morning. She went and poured herself a cup of coffee when she heard a soft knock on the door. She answered it, and it was Jonathan. "You're drinking coffee. That means you're working," he said, walking in. "I can handle a little bit of work," she said. "The doctor said to take it easy." "I am taking it easy. I just emailed people and talked to Jefferson on the phone about his new art exhibit. It has to do with TV sets and sound this time." "Sounds better than that pig exhibit he did," Jonathan said. "Oh, I forgot about the pig exhibit. I can't believe people bought that crap." "Wasn't it some town who wanted the sculptures all over? Like some big pork-producing town?" "Something like that," she said. "Have you talked to Wiener today?" "Not yet," she said, "but I should call her, or tell you. I was talking to Annika this morning, and she gave me some disturbing news. Apparently, she hasn't gone to work for a week because her erectile dysfunction ad campaign exploded in her face. The company thought it was soft?" "Annika won't ever go soft. She's too hard to compete with. No matter how long you push her down, she'll bounce back up with a great idea. But the posters came in for the erectile dysfunction ad, and she said the man in the ad looked just like my father." "Annika must be missing him is all," Jonathan said. "That's what I thought, at least at first," she said. "What are you saying?" "Well, what did my dad leave Annika in the will?" "Just the house." "And what did he leave me?" she asked. "Just your mom's stuff, which you haven't gotten yet, have you? There's only a couple things I really wanted, and I'll be damned, those pearl earrings she always wore were one of them." "Are they still at the house?" he asked. "Yes, but Annika's has not been there. She doesn't even know where my mother's stuff was hidden. At least, that's what I'm assuming." "You need to call Wiener with this," Jonathan said. "Now? Do you hear what you're saying?" "I'm saying it can't be Annika." "You're saying that those pearl earrings were your mother's," he said. Who had access to the house other than Annika?" Well, I do, but really that's not saying anything. But she stopped herself. No, Jonathan, that's saying everything. My father left nothing in his will to anyone. Get me the phone so I can call Wiener. I need to tell her who I think tried to kill me. Blinding Innocence, Episode 1. Jefferson McMahon came out of his apartment, usual cigar in mouth, just as Annika Jordan came out of hers. She started right at him, her eyes saying all the words. "Die," she hissed, sending chills down Jefferson's spine. "You deserve to, and you know it." She glared one last icy stare, and began to turn around to leave, but he grabbed her wrist. "The world does not revolve around you, and you know it," he replied. She looked down at his hand on her wrist. "Maybe I'll just get my lawyer to sue your ass off for harassment." "You want harassment? I'll give you harassment." And he took the cigar out of his mouth and threw it at Annika. "Damn you! You burned my cheek!" And "Ah!" she screamed, and found the cigar had fallen into her coat pocket and began to smolder. As it flared up, it began spreading throughout her coat and caught her pants on fire. Literally, you can say she was hot. "Oh God, help me! I'll burn to death!" she screamed, jumping around the hallway, doing a new type of dance. Jefferson went to the fire extinguisher and sprayed it at Annika, putting out the fire. Jefferson began to laugh really hard because she looked like crap, the way her attitude was. Jefferson was laughing so hard, he didn't seem to notice Annika walking towards him with a taser. She stuck it into his chest, zapped him while also slapping him across the face. All of this was so surprising, he fell to the floor. He saw what had happened and started to laugh even harder. Annika was now extremely angry and stormed back into her apartment to call the doctor. But instead, she sat on the couch and started crying. The door slammed behind her, making enough noise for everyone in the apartment to hear. The door across from Annika's apartment opened, and an attractive young woman came walking out. She was tall, slim, and her black eyeliner gave her an oriental look. Her dark hair was pulled back and slick, shining in the hallway. Her name, Cynthia Andrews. "What's happening out here? I could have sworn I heard screaming," she asked, her voice sensual. "It was Annika," Jefferson said. "What are you doing on the floor?" She had a taser. "Are you okay?" She bent over and helped Jefferson up. "You're shaking a little bit." "I had bolts of electricity shot through me, but worst of all, she slapped me while she was doing it. It sounds like she was in her usual witchy mood." He relaxed his shoulders and released a sigh, all his tension released from his previous dispute. "She said that she could sue me for harassment, so I threw my cigar at her. It landed in her coat pocket and started smoldering. Her pants smoldered also, so I took the extinguisher and stopped the fire before she had any severe burns. She was a mess." "Oh, she deserves whatever you throw at her," Cynthia said. She looked funny. "I was laughing too hard, but that was when she attacked me with the taser." "Well, you don't look too bad, as if no damage ever occurred," Cynthia purred. She smoothed out her burgundy skirt, fixed her cordovan leather jacket, and offered her hand to Jefferson. "Well, I'm off to lunch. Would you like to join me? That is, unless you have other plans," she trailed off, looking down. "Sure. I was going to visit Julie at the hospital, but I could take a detour." "The hospital called. They said she woke up," Cynthia said, linking her arm around Jefferson's. His height still couldn't be reached, even by her 3-inch heels. She gazed at the salt and pepper flecks of age that were starting to show in his sideburns. She still didn't know his official age, but then again, she lied about hers all the time. "Well, if she's not laying in the bed unconscious, I don't need to do her a pity visit." "Well, why don't you visit her when she comes home, and just come to lunch with me? My treat," she said, winking. She grabbed his arm tighter and walked down the hall, past the broken elevator, to a very expensive lunching restaurant. Blinding Innocence, Episode 2! How did she get here? She gawked at the old woman staring at her. Julia Craver replayed the incident over and over in her head. She was walking to the ATM. All she wanted was to pull out some money for the day she had secretly planned for Jonathan, her lover. It was his day off of work, and she had scheduled herself away from the boutique where she worked, which was showing off the latest of Jefferson's modern artwork. The wind was a little icy for the cloudless day in October. She pulled up her collar and wrapped her scarf around her neck a little tighter, when a hand grabbed the scarf and pulled hard. The strong hand flung her to the cold cement, and she was knocked on the side of the head, leaving her out cold on the street, and all that was left beside her, before she blacked out, was an earring. That was 2 months ago. Days, weeks, months had passed. She had just woken up. The doctors were relieved. Since her concussion was so bad, she was floating in a coma. But her eyes fluttered awake, and there she was, in the hospital. Her butt was cold from the gown, and right after the doctor told her how long she was out, in walked this old woman. "Hello, dear. I can't believe it's been 2 months. This is terrible," the old woman said. Her hands looked like they were in a hot bath for too long, they were so wrinkled, and each finger had a turquoise ring on it. "How on earth did this happen to you?" The old frisky woman took a couple more steps toward Julia. The doctor that saw Julia wake up fetched a policeman, and they both stood quietly in the doorway, waiting for the right moment to step in. "Who are you?" asked Julia. "Excuse me." The old woman took a step back, fondling the turquoise ring on her right finger. "Who are you?" Julia asked again. "Are you stupid? I'm your mother," the frisky woman said. Anger etched her face. But the officer, Hall, it said on his badge, cut into the conversation. The doctor had slipped out, probably to see other patients. "The doctor told me she has amnesia, Mrs. Craver. She was mugged, and she has amnesia." "Please, officer, I would rather be called Ms. Wiener, my maiden name," the old woman said with a smile. "You're not my mother." She turned to Officer Hall. "That's not my mother. I've never seen her in my life." They all looked at each other. A triangle of mystery. "Officer Hall, could I please speak with you alone?" Julia asked. Hall ushered Ms. Wiener out of the room. The door latched shut, and he pulled a chair up to Julia's bed. "Officer, I must tell you what's going on." "You remember things?" Hall asked. "What? Did the doctors tell you that I have amnesia?" "They said it was possible." "I think I just woke up. I remember things. I don't think I have amnesia. I remember the day I was mugged like it was yesterday," she said. "Even though it was 2 months ago?" 2 months? I've been out for 2 months? You would expect a doctor to have stayed with me a little longer than that Ms. Wiener woman." "So you honestly don't know Miss Wiener?" "No. I don't know any Wieners. I've never met a Wiener in my life. But I think I can remember what happened that day." "Then tell me everything you can remember," Hall said, flipping open a notepad to write down notes. "At first I thought it was my roommate Annika, but it wasn't. Now that I think about it, it was never her. I remember who mugged me because I think I saw their face." "You think you saw their face?" asked Officer Hall. "That's not important right now," Julia said. "That Miss Wiener isn't my mother. She died 10 years ago. I know it wasn't my roommate Annika. This may sound weird, but Annika is my stepmother. She married my father. Yes, I wasn't happy about my father marrying someone 20 years younger than him, just 2 years after my mother's accident, but they seemed really great together. Annika and I became friends over the year they were married, but then my father was secretly plotted against by his law firm. They killed him in a horrifying car explosion. Annika didn't want to live in their huge house alone, so she moved in with me. We are very close in age." "Thank you for so much back history that isn't very important," Hall said. "But what about that old woman you said isn't your mother? What about who you think actually put you in the hospital?" "I can't say much for Miss Wiener, but I know my mother's maiden name wasn't Wiener. But Jones, plain old Miss Jones. That woman does look familiar, however." "In what way?" "Like someone my mother used to know. Wait, it's coming back to me. I know who she is. That Wiener woman worked with my mother in California. I was little when it all happened, but she started doing things and saying things that weren't normal, and so they put her in a mental hospital." "Interesting. Do you think she has a connection to your mugging?" "Officer, I thought I knew who mugged me, but now that Miss Wiener is here, I'm not sure who was that attacked me." Meanwhile, back at Julia and Annika's apartment, Annika was sharpening a knife. She set it on the dark oak Ethan Allen coffee table next to the apple she was going to snack on. She took the golden delicious, cut a slice, and went into her room. She chomped on the apple, pulled open the drawer of her dresser, and pulled out a shotgun and loaded it. She had a smile on her face. The hospital just called and said Julia had just woken up from her 2-month coma. Annika took the gun back and placed it next to her apple and contemplated how some caramel dip would be so good along with her golden delicious apple. Blinding Innocence, Episode 3. Jefferson and Cynthia were at the expensive restaurant waiting for their Italian food. They were engrossed in a conversation about Polaroid film when the doors to the restaurant dramatically opened. Michael Crawford, Cynthia's boss at the law firm she worked at, was arm in arm with a beautiful blonde. They walked suavely into the restaurant, which was very light and decked out in white linens and curtains. It was a refreshing place to eat, if one could afford it. Cynthia cussed and ducked under the table. This was not good. "I shouldn't be here," Cynthia hissed under the table, hitting Jefferson's leg. She watched the blonde's legs crisscross as they traipsed across the floor. Jefferson lifted the white table linen, and Cynthia slapped his hand to cover her up, as she cowered on the floor. "What do you mean? You said you had today off," Jefferson said, confused. "Well, not exactly. You called in sick?" "You have to understand," Cynthia whispered, turning her eyes away from Jefferson's crotch. "I'm so sick of working for Michael. All week he's been loading on the pressure about the McFlynn case." "The family suicide?" "Yes. The police don't think it's suicide." "I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I've said too much information. You could be called in as a juror." "I didn't register to vote this year," Jefferson interrupted. "Regardless, I'm not supposed to talk. But I had to get away from it all, and to add to this misery, my feet have been killing me. I think I need to see a foot specialist." "Well, as you are under the table, I am waving my hand at the waiter to cancel our order as we speak." "Yes, I was just called, and I have to cancel our order." "The lady I was with?" "Yes, she was not feeling well. She went to the bathroom." "You didn't see her leave for the bathroom. That's nice that you're trying to spy on us." "Of course you're not spying, but I would love to talk to your manager." "Yes, I would like to order my cancel." "Oh, excuse me, cancel my order." "I don't care if they started preparing it." "I am not entitled to pay for the whole thing." "I am not." "I am not." "I'm not." "I won't." "Okay, I'll pay for half. Please put it on my tab. Under the name Jefferson McMahon." "Yes, I'm him." "Nice to meet you, too." "Silly you didn't recognize me, since I come in often, and seem to be the only man with an eye patch." Cynthia giggled at that. Jefferson kicked her. The waiter's patent-leathered black shoes walked away. "What?" Cynthia whispered. "You have a tab here?" "This is where my book meetings take place," he said. "But you're a painter, aren't you?" "There are so many things you don't know about me," he cooed. "Since it's on my tab, we should be able to just leave." "How can we just leave? I'm hiding under this table." "Just crawl through the restaurant," he said. "In this skirt?" "I don't think so," she said. "At the risk of getting fired?" "Oh, I won't get fired," she said. But she had pride. She lifted the tablecloth up and began crawling on the floor. Jefferson looked at her and pointed a safe route to the exit. She skidded on the floor, feeling her knees acquiring rug burn. Jefferson slowly got up and headed toward the exit. People stared at her as she hustled her way on hands and knees. Once she made it to the exit, she stood up. "Cynthia!" Michael just saw her. She kept her head turned away. "He'll mistake me. A lot of women have red hair," she told Jefferson. "Cynthia!" Michael got up from his table. "I thought you were sick." "Well, I am," she said. "You may not want to stand too close to me." "You're looking quite nice to be sick," he said. "The better you look, the better you feel," she retaliated. "I just couldn't stand being cooped up on a day like this. so I decided to come and have a nice lunch. But the McFlynn case, he grumbled under his breath, light with scotch. Sick, Michael. You don't want someone like me working. She feigned a fake cough. Anyway, I'm surprised you didn't come and check on me. You do live down the hall from me. Regardless of all of this, it is a poor excuse, and you better be in tomorrow, or else. He trailed off, giving her the eye. If you'll excuse me, I have a lunch date. Or else what? Cynthia called after him. He turned around and smiled at Cynthia. Was Cynthia supposed to understand that? Was something lurking underneath that smile? Ugh! He acts as if he has a cold metal rod up his butt, she said, following Jefferson out of the restaurant. Either that or a policeman's hand, he said. Excuse me? That's gross. Thank God we didn't eat. What do you mean? He's a smuggler, Jefferson said. A smuggler? Cynthia felt like a 5-year-old child for not understanding Jefferson. Smuggling what? You live on the same floor I do. Don't you know what happened last year? I wasn't living there a year ago. A year ago I was still paying off student loans from law school. Which was true. She was. He was caught with pot up his anus. You think those are cigarettes he smokes when he takes the trash to the trash room? Oh, God! He sticks things up his anus, she gasped. Yes, up his anus. He smokes it, even if it's been up his anus. Even if it's been up his anus. My boss has an anus. Cynthia stopped cold on the steps outside the restaurant. Well, yes, interrupted Jefferson. Not just an anus, Cynthia continued, a gleam in her eye. An anus. Please, Cynthia, quit saying anus. I'm sorry, but I just found out my boss smuggles drugs using his anus. What would you do if you had this kind of information? Well, I'd stop saying anus. Anyways, I'm technically my own boss. Oh, you creative people have so much crass. Don't you get it? My boss, who lives on our floor, smuggles drugs up his anus. Cynthia, please, Jefferson interrupted. Anus, Jefferson, she shouted in the street as they walked. Anus, anus, anus. And you could use it as blackmail, Jefferson said. Please, all of us could. Welcome to the club. He sighed. It's just nice to have some leverage over a man who has power over me, she giggled. But Jefferson knew. Even if he and others on the floor knew about the pot, there was nothing that could be done about it. There was no leverage. Cynthia didn't understand who really had the power on their floor. It wasn't her. It wasn't Jefferson. It wasn't Annika. It wasn't Betty Lou, who has not been introduced as a character yet, but Michael. Jefferson shuddered. What's wrong? Cynthia asked. Oh, just a cold chill, he said, and they walked on to another restaurant. Blinding Innocence, Episode 4. There was a soft knock on the door. Officer Hall looked at Julia. Come in, she said. It was Jonathan. Good, tall, brown-haired Jonathan. At least by the looks of him. I came over as soon as they told me, he said, rushing over to her bedside. Is this Jonathan? Officer Hall asked Julia. It is. This is my lover. Jonathan, why don't you pull up a chair and sit down with us? Officer Hall said, making arm motions for Jonathan to move forward. Is there a chance that I could have a moment alone with Julia first? It's been 2 months, officer. Officer Hall nodded at his sentiment, excused himself, and said he would be outside waiting for Julia to call him back in. Julia, Jonathan cooed, leaning in to kiss her cheek. She held up her hand and stopped his face from inching any closer. What? He asked, with the right side of his face smashed up against her hand. I'm not sure if it's good to see you or not, she said, pushing his face away. What on earth are you talking about? I've been here every day watching over you, to make sure I wouldn't wake up. Of course not, he exclaimed, appalled at her accusations. Waiting for me to wake up so you could smother me with a pillow and knock me out again. Knock you out again, he asked. Julia, are you feeling well? He tried to feel her forehead, but she grabbed his wrist and pushed it away. No, I'm not feeling well, but I can still think. The doctors were afraid that I would have amnesia, but lucky I remember the day of the attack perfectly." "Well, that's good news, isn't it? You can try to figure out who it was that mugged you," he exclaimed, a glimmer in his eye. "I already know who it was that mugged me. There were pieces of the black mug next to me when they found me." "Pieces of a black mug?" "Yes," Julia hissed. "The irony. A mug, with fingerprints on it." "And they have a lead?" "Not yet. The fingerprints were not in the police station's database. At least, that's what Officer Hall told me before you came. The scene investigators were at a loss, especially with the evidence that was left behind. Pieces of a broken black mug that had my blood on it," she said, pointing to the healing wound on her forehead. "What all was at the scene of the crime?" "The mug, of course, with fingerprints on it, which they said belonged to a male. But the strangest part of the evidence was a pearl earring." "A pearl earring, along with a mug with man fingerprints?" "Yes, man fingerprints." "Have you seen the earring? Does the earring look familiar?" "No," Julia said. "I haven't seen the earring yet. I don't know if Officer Hall has the evidence with him or not." "So we have no leads to who mugged you?" "I don't know. There could be something," Julia said, looking out the window. "Could you bring Officer Hall back in, please?" Jonathan opened the door, and Officer Hall came back in with his pad of paper ready to go. "So, you've been assigned to this case?" Jonathan asked Hall. "Actually, sir, if you would mind having a seat, I am inclined to ask you some questions." "Questions?" "Questions," Hall said. "But questions?" Jonathan asked. "There's always questions," Hall said. "But questions are usually for people who may be suspects," Jonathan trailed off. "Hence the questions," Hall said. Julia looked at her heart monitor as the green lines jumped up and down to show that her heart was doing just fine, that her health was doing just fine. But she waited for the questions. Hall's questions that might incriminate Jonathan. Julia's eyes began to water. How could her lover, someone who came every day while she was in a coma, someone she trusted, be questioned about her mugging that put her in a coma? "What were you doing the morning Julia was mugged?" "Well," Jonathan said, "for starters, I was at the ATM taking out some cash." Julia sat up a little straighter when he said this. "And what were you doing at the ATM?" "I said I was pulling cash out," Jonathan said, annoyed that he had to repeat himself. "Did you have plans that day? Work? Volunteering? Donating your semen for research? Donating blood?" "I actually had the day off and wanted to do something fun for Julia. So, I decided to grab some cash so I could surprise her with a relaxing day of fun." Julia's legs broke out in goose flesh. "But," she interrupted him, "that's what I was going to do." "What do you mean?" Officer Hall asked. "I took the day off from the boutique so I could surprise Jonathan. You couldn't have planned something that I already had planned. That's no fair." "This is odd," Hall mused. "The two of you planning the same type of thing for each other." He wasn't sure he liked how the stories were similar. He went to his lab bag, pulled out tape. "Jonathan, I will need to take your fingerprints." "Only if my lawyer is president," Jonathan said. Your lawyer isn't president," Officer Hall said. "I'm sorry. Only if my lawyer is present," Jonathan said. "Jonathan," Julia said, "please do what Officer Hall asks." "What, you don't believe me? You think I'm making the story up? You think that your own lover mugged you?" "Jonathan, you're putting words in my mouth." "I'm innocent," he said. "If that's the case, then you shouldn't have a problem putting your hand on this tape for me now, should you?" Hall said. "I suppose not." And Jonathan smashed his flexed-out hand onto the tape. Hall thanked Jonathan for his cooperation, put all his equipment away, and thanked them for their time, leaving them so he could process the latest evidence. Julia, her eyes beginning to turn red from the ravage of tears that wanted to break from the floodgates, couldn't bring herself to say anything. Blinding Innocence, Episode 5. Sitting on the couch, just waiting, Annika had the gun and the telephone resting on her lap while she nibbled on her latest snack, popcorn. She wished this was caramel corn. The apple earlier put her in the mood for caramel, but the salty popcorn would have to do. She was calling it her last supper. She hadn't shown up for work all week, and her boss just called her up. "Annika, this isn't like you," he said. "Roger, I know. I've always been so reliable," she said. But with no resolution and no choice, Roger told her to seek help, and that he was going to put her up for a leave of absence since she didn't sound like herself. The office, she thought. Oh, the damned office, full of photographs and campaigns and smiling faces. And on her desk, the photo of her deceased husband. She didn't tell Roger about the strange coincidence that kept her from stepping foot in the office. "Why won't you return? You're one of the best in advertising," Roger had pleaded. "I just can't stand my office any more," she said. Annika woke up that morning and realized that she was being stupid for not going to work. She walked into Julia's room. She missed her. Annika delicately touched Julia's bed and took a deep breath, giving herself the courage to go into the office and look at the two pictures that kept her awake at night, which gave her nightmares of midgets. Midgets with the face of her dead husband. "Oh, Pupe," she said. "I miss you, Pupe." She picked up the gun, her buttery hands sliding all over the handle. She giggled while playing with it, and she stared at the gleaming black handle. "This lever is so easy to pull," she said so softly. No, don't think that," she said aloud. "Or how about the window? Nothing like a dramatic suicide. Plus the thought of Peter Pan comes to mind. Whee!" she giggled out loud. "Stop," she said to herself, quietly. "My life isn't that bad." But the thoughts of her office drove her mad, because the photo on her desk of her late husband looked so much like the man in the new erectile dysfunction ad she'd been working on. The photos had just come in last week, and there he was, sitting in a family portrait-like photo with a huge grin on his face and an arm around another woman. It could be just coincidence, she thought, but it was odd, especially since her husband left only the house in her name and nothing else. She crossed the room and opened the window. She placed the gun on the edge next to her. Pigeons had left white dung all over the edge. It looked like someone spilt bottles of whiteout all over the brick. While not paying any attention, she placed her hand in it, and her palm slid across the brick. She cut her palm open, and dark blood mixed with the fresh pigeon poop. "Crap!" she screamed as she slid and lost her balance, falling to the floor. She reached for the window to break her fall, but she hit the gun as she fell. The last noise she heard before she hit her head on the floor was a gunshot. Meanwhile, Jefferson was busy working on his latest art project when he thought he heard a gunshot. He continued moving the mouse, and while working on the computer, but the quiet after the violent sound was disconcerting. No one else was in the hallway. He knew Cynthia went out shopping after their lunch. Michael was back at the office. Julia was gone. He tried to figure out where Betty Lou was, but she hasn't been introduced as a character yet, and so the last person he could ask was Annika. He let out a huge breath and headed toward the door. He knocked lightly, but there was no answer. He turned the handle and it opened. He peered in and felt the cold December wind blow into the apartment room. "Annika, why would you have the window?" He stopped himself when he found her body laying by the window. He rushed over to her and noticed a pool of blood mixed with a white substance by her hand. "Annika," he quietly yelled. He shook her, but she wasn't waking up. He looked around the room, unsure what to do, because he was an artist and had no life-saving skills, when he noticed the taser gun on the dark oak Ethan Allen table. He grabbed it, turned it on to its lowest voltage, and stuck it in Annika's side. She bolted awake. "Pupe!" she screamed, sitting up. "Pupe, save me!" She grabbed onto Jefferson in a fierce hug, but he pushed her away, cringing as she left a smear of pigeon dung and blood on his sleeve. "What about Pupe?" Jefferson asked. "Pupe," Annika mumbled quietly. "Why do you keep saying Pupe?" Jefferson asked again. Annika blinked a couple of times. "Oh, Jefferson, it's you." "Why did you say Pupe?" "I didn't say Pupe, Jefferson. Please, I'm a lady." She slowly got up and wobbled to the couch and sat down. "If you wouldn't mind, I would like for you to leave me alone," she said. She wasn't cold toward him, like she was earlier, but she wasn't in the mood to force anything. He walked back across the hallway and sat back down at his monitor and reached for the phone and dialed. "Hello, Michael," he said. "Yes, it was funny meeting you at the restaurant today, but I just wanted to let you know that I am ready for the next camera to be turned on. Preferably the one located in Annika and Julia's rooms." Blinding Innocence, Episode 6. Ms. Wiener walked in on Jonathan and Julia in the hospital room. "You're still here?" Julia asked. "Of course I am," Miss Wiener said. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your man friend?" Julia introduced Jonathan, and he chuckled when Miss Wiener introduced herself. "What's so funny?" Miss Wiener asked. Jonathan didn't reply. "I know I scared you earlier, but I needed to return," Wiener said. "I wish you hadn't," Julia said. "Your breath is awful. It smells." "I have chronic halitosis," Wiener said. Jonathan took a step back. He wanted none of that. "Jonathan, this was the woman I was telling you about. My so-called mother," Julia said. Jonathan tried not to get too close to Miss Wiener. If she had chronic halitosis, God knew what else was wrong with her. "Is it true you don't remember who I am?" Miss Wiener asked. "Miss Wiener, please step back. I didn't notice it before, but your breath smells like you lick buttholes," Julia said. "Now, honey," Miss Wiener said, "you wouldn't say that to your mother." "That's right," Julia said. "I wouldn't say that to my mother. But you're not my mother, so I'll say it as much as I like. You like to lick buttholes." "Well, then who am I?" Miss Wiener asked. The room was beginning to smell like a 5-day-old chicken casserole that was stuffed in the trash. "You worked with my mother back in California when I was little. I remember you," Julia said. "And what else do you remember?" "Well, you started acting different, and then they signed you into a sanitarium," Julia said, so surprised she could remember so much from the past. "Honey," Miss Wiener said, moving forward, making Julia cover her mouth with her hand, "I may act it, but just so you know, I'm not crazy." "Then what are you?" Julia asked. "If that policeman in here earlier knew who I was, I would have been forced out of the room. Of course I'm not your mother. I gave birth to children that were more beautiful than you." "I resent that," Julia said. "You just woke up from a coma. You have everything to resent," Wiener said. "But what else do you have to resent?" "That I don't know who attacked me," Julia said. "Exactly," Wiener said. Jonathan popped into the conversation. "Okay, lady, so what are you doing here if you're not crazy and you're not Julia's mom? Who are you?" "I'm a detective," Wiener said. "Explains your breath," Jonathan said. "What's that supposed to mean?" Wiener asked. "You smoke?" Jonathan asked. "Yes," Wiener replied. "Do you drink a lot of coffee?" "Starbucks in particular," Wiener said. "Oh, that stuff's bitter," Julia said. "Okay, so I smoke and drink too much coffee, which resorts to halitosis. God forbid. No one's perfect. Your ears aren't even level with each other," Wiener snapped at Jonathan. "So you lied earlier," Julia started, but Miss Wiener interrupted. "So the doctor wouldn't kick me out because I wasn't family. It was quite the show, confusing that stupid cop. But he's not going to help you figure out who it was that mugged you as fast as you'd like," Wiener said. "The police here will put your case at the bottom of the pile, no matter how much evidence they've gathered and fingerprints they take. Girl, you live in New York. The McFlynn case is getting so much press, you're just a bug they're trying to slot away." "You mean I didn't even make it into the papers?" Julia asked, surprised. "It was a small article," Jonathan said. "But how would you know about all this? I didn't hire anybody. I couldn't have. I was—" Julia trailed off, confused to how so quickly she would have a detective at her feet ready to work on her case. "Thank your boyfriend here," Wiener said. "Jonathan, you hired a detective for me?" Julia's heart sank and then rose. She put so much suspicion on Jonathan and gave him no time to explain. "Julia, I told you it was ludicrous that Hall was taking my fingerprints. It was just coincidence that we had something similar planned that day. I had to act, otherwise it would give me away if I said anything about Wiener here," Jonathan said. "This is heartwarming, really," Wiener interrupted, "but I have questions to ask and work to do." "What do you want to know?" Julia asked. "What is the evidence thus far?" "Well, I was hit on the head with a black mug, which a piece was left at the scene. Also, a pearl earring was left behind," Julia said. "So, it could have been a woman." "Well, yeah, we thought about it being a woman," Jonathan said. "But I can't think of any woman that would want to hurt Julia." "Annika," Julia asked Jonathan. "Why would she do that? You two became sisters when your father died, and you're the one that took her in," Jonathan said. "Oh, ladies and gentlemen," Wiener said, "you're living in an age when a piece of mug and a pearl earring left behind as evidence doesn't necessarily mean that it was a woman that attacked you." "Well, the attacker was strong," Julia said. Ms. Wiener searched around in her hippie-like satchel and pulled out a plastic bag. labeled as evidence with an earring in it. "Here's your earring," Wiener said, handing the baggie to Julia. "It definitely couldn't have been Annika," Julia said. "Well, of course not," Jonathan said. "No, it wasn't Annika, because this is my mother's earring." "But your mother died," Jonathan said. "She was a lovely lady," Miss Wiener said, wiping her eye. "And I know my father didn't give Annika the earrings. He kept anything that was my mother's out of sight or put away," Julia said. "Supposedly it was all supposed to go to me, but I have yet to see any of it." Julia trailed off. "So what are you saying?" Ms. Wiener said. "I'm not sure," Julia said, looking away. Meanwhile, as Annika lay on the couch with her injured hand covered in homemade bandage, she picked up the phone and tried to hold it with the towels that were duct-taped to her hand. "Yes, this is Annika. Could you put me through, please? Thank you." "Roger, hi, it's Annika. I'm sorry about this whole mess. It's just been a horrendous week, and I wanted to let you know that I will be back in tomorrow. I hope I still have the job." Roger told her of course, and she lay on the couch and dozed off, hoping to get enough rest for her first day back at work after a whole week. Blinding Innocence, Episode 7. As Cynthia lathered her body with cucumber, yogurt, cottage cheese, sour cream body wash, a piece of black plastic fell from the ceiling and crackled into the tub. Cynthia turned off her massage spray shower and bent over to pick up the small contraption. She looked up at the ceiling and couldn't see where it had come from. She reached out of her shower for a towel, dried off, and wrapped it around her to hide her delicious cucumber, yogurt, cottage cheese, sour cream body. She went to the kitchen table, turned on the light, and brought out a pair of tweezers. She pulled at the plastic and realized what a small piece of glass was lodged inside with a bunch of wires. Red and blue wires wrapped around themselves when she noticed a little microchip. "This is a video camera," she said aloud to herself. That's when she realized what Jefferson said the day before, when they went out to lunch. "Just because he shoves drugs up his anus," Cynthia said, "doesn't mean I can really blackmail him," she trailed off. She grabbed the little camera, made sure her bath towel was on tight enough, and went next door and knocked on Jefferson's door. He opened the door, wrapping a robe around his naked body. "Did I catch you at a bad time?" Cynthia asked. "You tell me. You're just in a towel," Jefferson said, trying to adjust his robe so his morning erection wouldn't poke out. "It's early, Cynthia. What on earth could you want?" "Yesterday, during lunch. Remember when you said how it would be nice for all of us to have something over Michael's head?" "Yeah, what about it?" Jefferson said, scratching his hair, which looked more gray in the morning than it did after he showered and was ready for the day. "I think I just found out why I can't use his drug anus situation against him." She let go of her fist and showed him the camera. "What is that?" he asked. "I think it's a camera." "A camera? Where did it come from?" he asked. "Do you notice that I'm in my towel?" "I thought you were coming over for a booty call," he said. "Very funny, Mr. Morningwood. You mean you can see it? Oh, Jefferson, please. It looks like you have an arm coming out of your robe down there." "But look at it." She raised it to his eyes. He ruffled around in his pocket and pulled out his glasses and looked at the small device. "It does look like a camera, but why?" "And especially where it was, Jefferson. I don't know how long it's been in there, but for the past, who knows how long, I've been showering and someone's been watching me. Do you think it's—" "Michael?" Jefferson interrupted. "I'm going over there right now," she said. "And what are you going to tell him?" "All you have is what I said, that he smuggles drugs, and that we could all sue him," he said. "But you also alluded to how he had something over our heads." "Yes, I alluded to it, but who knows what one of us has done in this building that wasn't just a little bit illegal." "I don't know when showering became illegal," Cynthia said. "Regardless," Jefferson said, and shut the door in Cynthia's face. Odd, she thought. They had such a nice time yesterday. But Jefferson was right. Regardless, she had no evidence. It could be the bellboy's camera for all she knew, and she shivered. He was dirty. But the feeling of Michael watching over her sent chills through her body as she went back into her apartment, throwing the camera away. Blinding Innocence, Episode 8. Annika threw open the doors to the advertising agency as Roger came and greeted her with a large mug of coffee. "Not the normal latte?" she asked. "The machine is down. Will gourmet do?" he asked. "It'll do just fine. Again, I want to apologize about my behavior," she said. "It's just good to have you back," he said. "What's been keeping you out?" "Just a lot of personal issues I've been sorting out." He noticed the bandage on her hand. "What happened there?" "Oh, it's not as bad as it looks," she mused. "I was looking out the window when my hand slipped on bird poop, and my palm slid across the brick and it sliced my palm open." "Can you get the bird flu from bird poop?" he asked, concerned. "I hope not. I haven't felt well, but I don't think it's the bird flu," she said. "Well, I'll let you get settled in. We have a meeting in an hour. We're anxious to see how your erectile dysfunction campaign turned out." "What was the medicine called again?" "Stiffenex," she said. She walked down the cubicles in the halls and found her office. It had windows and was clad in light gray interiors. Nothing she would have picked out, but it was delicate enough. She set her coffee down on her desk and looked at the picture of her and Pupe. To the public, the romance probably looked like some Donald Trump affair, but she wasn't a gold digger, especially since she remained a working girl. The romance was unusual, as she had never planned to get involved with someone so much older, but their love life was that of a 20-year-old high on speed. But then she got the phone call. The person on the other line said it was the police and how they had just discovered Pupe's body from a car explosion at his law firm. After the funeral and the meeting with her lawyers about the will, she found out he only left her the house, nothing else. They had only been married a short while, and Julia was equally as torn up about her father's loss. But all this time, the oddity of the situation didn't hit her until last week when the Stiffenex posters came in, and there it was, the enlarged picture of the man that looked identical to her late husband. She grabbed the picture of she and Pupe off her desk and walked over to the poster to compare. Identical. It was amazing. She walked back to her phone and called Julia, who had just walked in from the hospital as she was leaving. "Julia, I know you've only been home for a short while, and I don't want to bombard you, but I needed to tell you something," Annika said. "Annika, it's okay. I'm even working right now. I'm just jumping right back into the flow," Julia said. "Is that good? Did the doctor say it would be good to work on the boutique again?" Annika asked. "Well, with Jefferson's latest exhibit opening soon, I wanted to take the load off of some of the people at the boutique and do some public relations stuff. This will sound like it's coming out of nowhere, but I was home all last week, a terrible mess because my erectile dysfunction ad came in," Annika said. "You'll have to fill me in on the other campaigns you've been working on," Julia said. "Well, actually, this was the only one. It was a long one," Annika said. I've been out 2 months," she stuttered, "and you've been working on the same ad? How much longer will it be?" "Well, it's been hard. The market's been really stiff about another erectile dysfunction medication, so we've been massaging every inch of this. We wanted it to come out sooner, but it's such a tender subject. We needed more time before it's up and ready. I'm presenting it today, actually." "Well, good luck," Julia said. "But the reason I'm calling, which this will sound weird since it has to do with the erectile ad, but you know the picture of Pupe and I? The one on your desk," Julia asked. "Yes, well, the large posters for Stiffenex came in, and the man in the ad looks like Pupe." "That is strange. No wonder you were out a week," Julia said. "But the more I think about it, even though your father and I weren't married for very long, I was surprised he left me just the house and nothing else," Annika said. "I thought that strange also, especially the way he spoke about you. It just gives me shivers, like he's still alive, like this poster is trying to tell me that he never really died," Annika said. "Well, we buried him, Annika, and you were there at the viewing," Julia said. "I know, and I could just be paranoid, but I just feel his presence." They said their goodbyes, and Annika stood looking at the Stiffenex poster, rubbing her arms. "Pupe," she said aloud, "what have you done?"